With us now is Republican Congressman Mike Lawler, who represents a district just north of New York City. Congressman, 200 American service members are either already in or on their way to Israel right now, part of the international stabilization force that's supposed to make sure that Hamas disarms and relinquishes power. Now we're hearing some concerns about using U.S. troops to coordinate these next steps. We know Americans have been very leery of committing ground forces into this multi-generational conflict. How do you feel about this move? Is this a good risk in your eyes?
Look, this is a historic moment and obviously something that we have all been pushing for. President Trump and his administration, Steve Witkoff, Marco Rubio, Jared Kushner, they deserve all the credit in the world for negotiating this peace agreement and getting the hostages released. Obviously, as you just pointed out, this is phase one. And phase two is going to be more complicated in many respects. And I think U.S. troops, on the ground is helpful to ensure peace, to ensure a smooth transition. There's going to be bumps along the way. But I think with our Arab partners, with our greatest ally, Israel, we are on the verge of a momentous peace agreement that really will establish long-term stability in the region. When you look at the fact that there are tens of thousands of U.S. troops in the region to begin with. You have 700,000 Americans living in Israel at any given time. There is a rationale to have U.S. troops, within proximity to make sure that this does not spiral out of control.
Okay. All right, now we got to talk about this shutdown. The House was not in session, but you were definitely in session last week. You confronted Democrats multiple times, including your fellow New Yorker Democratic leader, Hakeem Jeffries. Let's listen to that.
Don't come with this phony...
These are bills.
No.
These are bills. They're not phony.
It's
They're
not
real
a bill
bills.
that Republicans are even prepared to bring to the floor.
There's 11 Republicans on it. There's 4 Democrats. It's a bipartisan bill to extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies. If you believe in it so much.
Do you understand math?
Okay, the Senate appears to be working on a possible short-term extension of those subsidies, but the legislation that you were telling the minority leader about, it can't go anywhere because Speaker Mike Johnson won't put the House back in session. If you guys aren't doing that, aren't you going to just get jammed by the Senate on the flip side of this thing?
Well, first of all, there's a reason the House is not in session, and that's because we did our job. We passed a clean CR over 3 weeks ago to keep the government open and funded, and every single Democrat except Jared Golden voted to shut the government down. And my point in going to Hakeem Jeffries was to say, look, if you're saying that this shutdown is about health care, here's a bill to extend the ACA tax subsidies that you claim are critical. I'm signed on to legislation to do that. There's now 14 Republicans, 11 Democrats on this bill. Let's get on it together and let's push to get it done. The bottom line is he had no interest in doing that because it's really not about health care. This shutdown is a direct result of Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries being petrified of their left flank and wanting to show AOC and Zohran Mamdani and every other radical leftist that they are fighting back against President Trump. That's all this is about, Chris. This has nothing to do with health care. If you want to talk about health care and fixing health care in America, then we have a lot of work to do. Since Obamacare took effect, when Democrats jammed it through without any Republican votes, since Obamacare took effect, health care premiums in America have risen by over 60%. Okay? This tax subsidy that was put in place during COVID by Democrats was slated to expire at the end of this year. If their argument is that the only way to keep health care affordable in America is to subsidize it, then that speaks to the failure of Obamacare. I am willing to extend these subsidies for at least a year, but the fact is we have to address the larger issue here, which is that Obamacare has actually failed to deliver in its primary promise, which was to reduce health costs in America. It has not done that. So they can sit here and blame Republicans all they want. This is their chief policy that they jammed through, and it is failing miserably, and Americans are suffering because of it. Yes, let's deal with it, but you don't shut the government down and try to hold the American people hostage in a negotiation.
So the president says he doesn't need Congress to pay the military. So military pay, Democrats, when the shutdown started, they were looking at this week to say, okay, and when that comes due, the pressure is going to go up. The president says, I don't need Congress to pay the military. I can just allocate funds. I can be the Article 1 branch. I can appropriate this money to pay. I understand nobody wants to be against paying the troops, but does anybody stand up for Article 1? Doesn't this strike you as a pretty substantial erosion of congressional power?
Well, respectfully, Congress can exert Article 1 by passing the clean CR. If Chuck Schumer would do his job and stop putzing around and show up on Tuesday and be prepared to vote to pass the clean CR, then this whole issue is moot. As far as I'm concerned, the troops should be paid. You have members of Congress collecting their paychecks. I have foregone mine, and it is being withheld until after the shutdown. But you have Democrats like Chuck Schumer collecting his paycheck despite creating this mess. And meanwhile, our military men and women are expected not to get paid. President Trump is right to move heaven and earth and try and use any funds necessary within the Department of Defense to make sure that our troops are paid. But again, Chris, all of this could be resolved pretty quickly if Chuck Schumer would just do his job and stop playing politics.
Okay. Congressman, we appreciate your time a great deal. Thank you for being with us today. If you spent this morning waiting for hot bagels at the Rockland Bakery in Nanuet, New York, you would know him already. But if you don't, there he is, Congressman Mike Lawler. We thank you.